Is Donald Trump a robot? Before his journey to presidency, throughout his entire election campaign, and even today, Donald can be found stirring conflict through his controversial statements, gruesome remarks, and offending behaviors. While most people get anxiety from just the idea of public speaking or even one-on-one social interactions, Donald is up on the world stage stirring up wild confrontations, all while appearing not to feel a bit of shame. How is it that these social pressures, the same ones that would greatly impact most people, don't seem to have any effect on Donald at all? Is it because he's a robot? The origins of self-esteem. We didn't always have the large variety of high-tech weapons and forms of protection available in the modern world today. In fact, for most of our species' existence, we were at a disadvantage, especially when it came to our biological survival equipment. Compared to other animals, our ancestors didn't have a very good sense of smell. Their night vision was weak. Their claws were rather pathetic. Their teeth weren't very sharp, and they only had 2 legs. However, the one thing our ancestors did have was the ability to work incredibly well together in groups, and this was key to their survival. Groups brought about the development of things like language, culture, tools, and technology, and it was groups that allowed our ancestors to cooperate and overcome their biological disadvantages. You can imagine then that one of the most dangerous things for them was to be cut off from their group, an event that would have almost certainly led to their death. In fact, groups were so important to our ancestors that it led to a mechanism whose primary purpose was to prevent them from being excluded, isolated, or abandoned. And today, we call this mechanism the sociometer. Okay, so you can think of these sociometers quite simply as the name implies. A meter that follows around each person, taking their social metrics and then regulating their behaviors and relationships accordingly. The purpose of these meters is to strengthen our relationship to the group and minimize the chances that we become rejected. Each one of our social interactions influences the levels of chemicals found inside of our brains, and this contributes to the readings in our sociometer. So these meters became concerned with things like social status, popularity, relationships, and all other indexes of social behavior. And they work like this. If everybody likes us, our meters go up, and we get good feelings that give us confidence, self-respect, and it increases our capacity to take risks. When our meters are reading high, we approach new friends and new mates. We look for opportunities to increase our social status, and we are motivated by good feelings to take advantage of our recent success and popularity. On the other hand, however, if everybody dislikes us or tries to avoid us, our meters go down, and this creates anxiety, low confidence, feelings of shame and discomfort, and all around feels bad. When our meters read low, we tend to avoid strangers and new interactions, and we try to repair our damaged relationships. But whether our meter reads high or low, its goal is always the same: to strengthen our relationship to the group and avoid rejection, and this is the basis of self-esteem. But now back to Donald Trump. So is Donald a robot? Well, no, not exactly. What is more likely than Donald Trump being a robot is that he's in possession of a very high self-esteem and is able to take huge social risks because of the high readings in his sociometer. Donald's threshold for feeling shame, embarrassment, and social anxiety is set differently than that of the ordinary person, and as a result, he's less sensitive to other people's opinions and less anxious about rejection. His sociometer essentially gives him the social superpowers to take enormous social risks in front of very large audiences without feeling much shame when things start to get heated. Sociometer theory is the theory of self-esteem from an evolutionary perspective. It proposes that self-esteem is a gauge or meter that determines how we feel about ourselves in order to regulate our relationships. These sociometers evolved out of our extreme dependence on groups, and to this day, self-esteem is still a pretty big deal for us humans. In our Animal Impulse laboratory, we've created a special formula for boosting self-esteem that is grounded in the mechanics of human biology. It's straightforward, simple, and very powerful. If you're interested in learning how you can harness your sociometer to create social momentum and become naturally more outgoing, hit the subscribe button, click the link, and get ready to become the president of your very own social superpowers.